Good morning folks, and welcome to the workshop of Armitage Leather. We're going to be making a pouch. Who doesn't want to make a pouch? This is just one video in a series of videos looking at pouches specifically. All the designs and templates totally printable, and you can print off the designs. They're in the pack, glue them to card, and you can work from them. There's a whole video on your template, so you can have a look at that. You can go to my website www.armitageleather.com/shop, and it's £12 to download the pack. It's 40 odd pages, crammed full of information. If you print all the templates off, and some of the pages you have to print twice because there's a duplicate for different ends, you'll end up with 10 different designs of pouch. Now, if you were to use this pack just to cut your teeth, fantastic, you're going to learn so much. The video is going to help, the pack's going to help. If you want to make bushcraft items, perfect, you can make these pouches as intended, make 10 of each one, take them to a show, sell them, fund your craft. Awesome, and kudos to you for that. Your other option, and this is where I'd like to lean you towards, is to look at the value of the techniques contained in the pack and the videos. Also in the pack is a large explanation on increasing the size and looking at your seam tolerances of each pouch to turn it into a larger pouch, a bag, whatever you want it to be. So it's looking at taking that skill set and transferring it onto bigger items once you're comfortable with your techniques. So if you struggle with any of the techniques needed to make this pack, or any one of the packs contained in the series of videos, you can go to my Vimeo channel. It's an online resource of multiple videos, not just on the pouches or the techniques using the pouches. It covers a whole range for many different items. All the tools and materials used in the videos to make these pouches are listed at the back of the pack. They're all hyperlinked, so if you keep the pack online, you can just click and it'll take you straight to it. If you have any questions or see any glaring mistakes, drop me an email, let me know, I'll adjust. In this section we're going to look at printing off all of the templates, cutting them out and trimming them to card so we can use them for cutting our leather out. Get everything sorted, glue it up, do one pack at a time, do them all together, it's your choice, but once set we're good to go. Looking at the pack as two parts for the minute, we're going to take the text away. I'm going to leave our patterns, and here we have all the different size patterns that we need to attach to card. So we'll start off with the round pouch flat, and what I'm going to do very roughly is I'm just going to cut a rough shape out, because we don't really want to spend our time gluing paper we're not going to use. Nice sharp knife. This is where a craft knife or some such would be ideal. And there we go. What I have now, and we do this with all of them to be fair, we can spend a bit of time, and what I will do is cut out many of these before I actually glue, and we can then just place them on in the place we want them to be, and we can do the same with the others and use as much of the card as possible. So let me cut a few more of these out and then we'll look at gluing them on. Now, the vast majority of these bits are simple to stick on. However, because of the size of the short gusset pouch for the 1 ounce tin and the 2 ounce tin, they're a little longer than the paper will allow. So we have these round circles with crosses in, and the idea behind this is we line up our rule on the crosses so we have a nice consistent straight line
at the top of the long section and the bottom of the short section, and we'll do exactly the same again here. We'll trim off this piece here. The idea behind this is when we glue it to our card, we can use these marks to line our top two pieces, or two pieces, up together like so. And we have the straight lines that we've just cut, and we have our outside lines and our centre line. If we line all of those up with our card, that's going to work nicely. So what we will do there is very, very simply, we will take our glue and run that round the outside. And this is where it's helped having that little bit of overlap, and we'll clean up the inside as well. Plenty of glue. So what we can do now is we can take a piece of card and we can lay that onto our card. This is 1.5mm thick card. It's mount board card, what you put pictures up with, but any good stiff card will do the job. We're not going to cut the card whilst the glue is wet. We're going to let that dry. So leaving it overnight would be a really good idea. And then we'll just glue up the back of that little piece. And this is where we line up our top two lines, our centre line, and we could do with dragging that over to the left slightly. Have a look at our right line, having a look at our left line and our centre line, and that looks absolutely spot on. And we'll have a little bit of a closer look. We'll do with dragging that in a fraction more. And we are good enough. When that's dry, we can trim that. But for the time being, what we can do is we can use the rest of the card and add more to it. So I'm going to glue all of these up, let them dry, and then we will come back and we will cut them out. So that's all the bits that I'm going to cut out or trim from the pattern for now, glue onto the board, leave those to dry, come back, cut them up, and then we can start taking them to leather. We're ready to cut our templates out. The glue has dried, and just to make life easier, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this section off here, and we can just work on a single piece. Now I'm going to use a clicker's knife. Now this is my black handled knife, and this is the one that I use for card and paper only. And to give you a little bit of an insight into how I do a curved cut, I hold the knife really far back. This would be a good example of choking the knife, bringing the hand up towards the blade and holding it very close and intimately when we cut. And this is holding it very loose, and this is how I'm going to cut. And the idea behind it is I want to see the blade drag around the curve. So if I hold the knife nice and far back, then I get a good idea of where the blade is actually cutting, and I can keep it on the line as best I can. How you do it, as long as you get the results, you do it the way that you're more comfortable. Now we're going to cut this in a big curve. Where we start is not particularly important. What I'm not going to do is try and go through the card in one hit. If I try and force the knife in, I'm applying more pressure, more likelihood there for the blade to run off and cut where we don't want to. So I'm going to just try and use the tip of that blade to score the card. But the one thing that I am trying to do is keep precision. Now, whilst we've let that dry, it's still dragging that paper. Obviously the glue didn't catch there sufficiently. And then we're just going to continue round, nice and slowly, following that line as precise as we can. We'd move our pattern round to suit our cut. And there we go, that's cut. And all we do now is pop that out of the way. And we've got a little bit of dodgy paper there. So that is our piece cut. Now we can see here how many you've got in the pack. There are our curved ones, there's a curved one, there's our big 2-ounce tin, we have the round top as well. There's an absolute phenomenal number in the pack, but the one that I want to concentrate on next is our 1-ounce tin short gusset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin that round, and we will trim off at the top here, give ourselves a nice even and straight cut. And if we have the opportunity for a straight cut, defer to a cutting edge. You will have a far more consistent line doing so. So we have our rule lined up against the edge of our pattern, and a nice gentle cut. Again, I'm not fighting the card. And what we will do also here, just do this freehand, is we will trim this out, because this information we need from this piece here. This is our short gusset for our 1-ounce tin. So we'll pop that aside, we'll finish off trimming this. And we'll line that rule up with the edge of our pattern. Trim off the excess. Beautiful. Swap over to a short cutting edge and then trim the base off as well. There's nothing wrong with using a square for this to either confirm we've got it right, or indeed actually physically cut with it. And we can see there we're absolutely bang on. We've done the top. What we're going to do now is trim these little shoulders off just here. Line up there and trim. Spin it round and do exactly the same. Again, if you want to do the rounded one, print them all off and you have the lot. Right, next one we want to be doing is our short gusset itself, because this is going to tell us where our stitching is going to be. Because I'm using 7 SPI irons. You may well use a different SPI. You may use an iron where the teeth actually give you a different distance. So giving you a measurement to work to is not going to help. So what I'm doing is showing you how to find your own measurement and consistency. So the idea behind it, this pack is being trimmed, and this is going to be a 7 SPI pack. But the information that I need to put this short gusset onto the pouch, I need from the short gusset. So I have my line to follow, I have my irons, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the top. So this is our short gusset, this is the top, and this is my iron. I'm going to use a 7 stitches per inch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean that over the end. Now I appreciate that I have my dot, and I have two choices. I can work to the dot or I can work one tooth over the end, and for this I will work to the dot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the first tooth on that dot, and I think that needs to just go up a fraction there. Let me just lean that on, making sure I'm happy, and what I shall do is just give it a tap. There we are, so I can find it again if I move it. So I've put the first tooth onto this dot, and I'm now working towards this line here. The chances of these teeth lining up with that dot are fairly slim, especially if we start messing now with different size irons. So we move forward, we're getting towards it, and to be fair, we are not far off. So that's more luck than judgment. So I'm going to move it back here, give it a good thump, go all the way through, and then move on to this hole here. So I have a very nice consistent row of holes on that line at 7 stitches per inch. However, if I were to stitch 8 stitches per inch, this last hole might actually be here, and we want to now look at our consistency and how we achieve that. So the easiest way of doing this is to count. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 holes. So we will write 18 on there, and then we come to our pattern proper. Now this is the base, this is the top back, this is the top front. So the idea would be now is to have our stitch line from the top front 18 holes in, sorry, top back 18 holes in, top front 18 holes in. If there is a level of inconsistency where this last hole finishes in the wrong place, it will finish in the wrong place here and the wrong place here, but they will be consistent, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So when we do our 18 holes, we will start center of our mark on the back section, and we will commit to those holes. That's 12 holes. So I move down, and that's 18 holes. So this is now going to correspond to this, and then we move this over, it does exactly the same. We don't start from this hole, we start from this hole and work right to left on this instance. Centre that tooth on that dot and commit, move over and commit, and exactly the same here. Those holes correspond. So when we bend this round like so, and we have our 18 holes here, 18 holes here, this will stitch to this like so. This will then bend back on itself in a U shape for this to bend round and stitch to this here, giving us our short gusset pouch system. So whilst it's worked out for me, I have, and if you use 7 stitches per inch, the likelihood is you will have this work out for you. But if you decide you want to use a different iron, then the holes may not work. But it's important to remember to start top back, top front, and work towards the base on both with the right amount of holes that you have lined up on your short gusset system. Exactly the same for the 2 ounce. Work out how many holes you have, apply those from the top, back, top, front every time. Just to finish off then, we have our front section, which is going to take our post for our Sam Brown stud, so a 3mm hole smack through there, and then we're going to have our pippin punch placed for our front section, upper fraction, and commit to that. So when we transfer our marks to our leather, we have our post hole and our pippin hole. And then just to finish off these top sections, we'll take a corner cutter. This is a Craft Tool 00 corner cutter, and we will just line up with that corner and then just knock it off. You can use a coin, you can use a washer, whatever it is you wish. I'm fortunate as far as I've got one of those, and it's very, very useful. And there we have the front section. That's done. If we are adding our belt loop to this pouch, and let's say we will do exactly the same that we did when we did our holes around our round pouch. We will start from the centre. So we're working out towards our dot. We'll pop our iron, so our first tooth is lining up with the hole that goes across for our stitching and the centre line running up the centre of the pattern, and at which point then we will commit, and at which point we will work out towards our hole, and our last tooth is bang on that dot. Again, this is worked out to 7 stitches per inch. If you vary this and these last 2 holes are a little short, well, that's not an issue as long as you work from your centre line. And there we go, we have our first and last hole, and we have a row of holes in the middle, and we do exactly the same at the bottom here as well. So as we lay this template onto our leather, we hold it in place until every hole that we need marked on the leather is marked. And what I shall do before I put this away is I will continue these holes on this side as well. And that's my template when that's done, complete and finished. And we are then good to take this to our leather, cut it out. When we cut it out, we will mark our pippin hole at the top, our rose stitching at the top and bottom of our loop, the back rows of stitching, the front rows of stitching, and the hole for the post, and at which point everything will come together, and we'll look at that in the first video. So folks, that's just a very, very brief look at cutting out and marking your templates and how to hole mark with the iron that suits you. It's now time to start looking at the videos and how to do the construction properly, and I will overlap some of the stuff, but I hope you enjoy. Have a look. There's a number of videos for all the different packs. Each video contains a number of different ways of doing it. Try it out. Look at different ways of changing the dimensions and seeing what you can come up with, and show me. I'd love to see. But more importantly, it's fun. Enjoy. Go play.